Hot news has once again rocked the MotoGP world. Crucial information about Pecco Bagnaia was surprisingly leaked to the public just a few days before the important series. In the midst of Ducati's preparations to maintain their dominance, Marc Marquez's name has been dragged into the mix. The man who was idolized for his phenomenal performance with the DISRUPTOR GP25 is now being accused of disrupting the team's internal system. What is the content of the big update that has been leaked for Pecco Bagnaia? And why has the presence of Marc Marquez actually caused chaos in Ducati's development system this season? Let's discuss it. In the world of MotoGP, there is only one thing more cruel than defeat: losing control of the weapon that once brought you glory. And that is what Pecco Bagnaia, known as Pecco, is now feeling as he faces the bitter reality of Le Mans 2025. The two-time world champion, known for his elegant and precise racing style, is now on the verge of an existential crisis. Not because of his physique, not because of his opponents, but because of one thing: the DISRUPTOR GP25 is no longer an extension of his body and mind. The 2025 MotoGP season should be the arena for Pecco's continued dominance with Ducati. He is the figure who brought the Bologna-based manufacturer back to the pinnacle of glory after years in the shadow of Honda and Yamaha. But instead of continuing the golden story, this season has plunged him into a very deep technical and mental drama. The Ducati GP25, the latest generation bike that was expected to be the perfect evolution, has actually betrayed the racing philosophy that made Pecco's name. Finally, I understand, after 6 series, this bike can no longer give me what I'm looking for, said Pecco with a face that no longer hides disappointment. This is not just a technical comment. This is a world champion admitting defeat, not to his opponent, but to his own bike. At first glance, Pecco still seems to be in the race. He has won 1 race and is only 20 points behind the leader of the standings, Marc Marquez. But to a true observer, those numbers hide a much bigger problem. In every series so far, Pecco has never been the fastest rider on the track. Not because he hasn't tried, but because the bike no longer speaks the language he understands. It's not about settings. It's about the philosophy, he said. I lost my greatest strengths: braking and corner entry. The DISRUPTOR GP25 has a very sophisticated technical package. But that is the problem. The changes in the bike's characteristics, especially at the front, have upset the balance that was Pecco's main strength. The instability of the front end made him lose his confidence in late braking and aggressive corner entry. He tried everything: engine configuration, electronic revisions, chassis tweaks, even a new mental approach. But the results were still nil. On the Ducati side of the garage, the situation was the opposite. Marc Marquez, the 8-time world champion, clicked with the GP25 right from the first race. At Le Mans, he was almost perfect. In his first qualifying simulation, Marquez was so fast that he did not need to use the soft tires, but only the medium ones to test his race pace. Ducati gave him a new chassis from the post-race test, which is said to have more performance potential. But in typical Marquez fashion, he is modest. I was told that this is a chassis that could be better. Why? I don't know. But my feeling is the same. And that's the important thing. That's the most striking difference. Marquez is not only fast, he's adaptable. He doesn't fight the bike, he dances with it. Pecco, on the other hand, is still trying to dance to the old rhythm, which has now changed. The story is further complicated by the fact that Marc Marquez, who rides last year's GP24, is leading the standings. And that hurts Pecco, because the data shows that Alex's riding style is now identical to Pecco's style last season. Even Pecco himself admits this. But when asked if he would be interested in returning to the GP24, his answer is a firm no. Going back to last year's bike is not the answer. I have to be fast with the current one, says Pecco. Maybe it's a matter of pride. Maybe it's the direction of Ducati's long-term development. Or maybe it's the pressure of a team that wants to keep moving forward. But the fact remains, Pecco is fighting alone, with a machine that no longer embraces him as it once did. Davide Tardozzi, one of the most influential figures behind Ducati's success, has reiterated that Pecco Bagnaia, or Pecco, is still an important part of their long-term vision. But underneath that confident statement, a sharp comment from MotoGP journalist Jack Appleyard was a slap in the face that was hard to ignore. Despite winning 1 race, I don't think Pecco has ever really looked competitive this season. These words reflected a growing unease. Every time Ducati pushed the limits of technology to gain an edge, Pecco seemed to pay a high price by sacrificing his comfort and confidence on the track. The increasingly wild and aggressive bike was actually moving away from the defending champion's natural riding style. The post-race test should have been a turning point, giving new hope. But in reality Pecco did not show any strong signs of revival. His performance was still shrouded in uncertainty, as if trapped in a bike that no longer spoke to him. Now Ducati are at a difficult and decisive crossroads. Will they continue to develop the bike according to the characteristics of Marc Marquez, who is showing extraordinary performance, or will they try to return the soul of the DISRUPTOR to the hands of Pecco, the star who previously led them to the pinnacle of glory? I am a rider who has won 30 Grands Prix in the last 4 seasons. I will only be happy if I win again. Not the podium, not the points. But to win, said Pecco Bagnaia with a voice that reflected both conviction and pressure. This is the cry of a true warrior. A world champion who is not willing to settle for a top 3 finish. He is not chasing statistics or empty numbers in the standings. What he is chasing is absolute glory, absolute supremacy. Because for Pecco a win is not just the end result, it is validation, proof that he still deserves to be at the top of the MotoGP world. But he is aware that the world has changed. The dynamics of power have changed. The torch of glory that he once held so tightly is now beginning to change hands. And the name that now holds it in his firm hand is Marc Marquez, the new gladiator on the Ducati DISRUPTOR GP25. Even when Pecco conquered Austin, the highest podium felt incomplete. The victory was incomplete, not fully illuminated. Because Marquez, the main rival who is now the benchmark for the entire grid, crashed in the middle of the race. Pecco won, yes. But not the way he wanted. He wanted to win through duels, through wheel-to-wheel battles, through courage and strategy on the track. He wanted to beat the legend when both were at their best. Not by luck or chance. That is the standard he set for himself, a standard that is almost unreasonable. But it is also what separates a champion from an ordinary rider. Pecco doesn't just want to stay on top. He wants to prove that he is worthy of being at the center of MotoGP. But as the pressure mounts and the shadow of Marquez grows, the question is no longer how many wins Pecco can achieve. The question is whether he can survive, or be knocked off the throne he once claimed as his own. Ducati is now faced with a strategic choice that is not an easy one. The DISRUPTOR GP25 has indeed proven to be a success for Marc Marquez. But the opposite is true for Pecco Bagnaia. Ironically, Alex Marquez has actually been more competitive with the old version of the bike. This is not just a technical issue, it is a question of philosophy, identity and the future direction of the Borgo Panigale factory team. If this trend continues, with Marquez becoming more dominant and Pecco struggling more, the internal dynamics of Ducati could change drastically. From a harmonious professional relationship to an inevitable tension. How do Ducati see Pecco Bagnaia's role in their long-term vision, despite his difficulties this season? Let's discuss it.